So, let's start by looking at Godzilla Minus One, the 33rd Japanese Godzilla film, produced and distributed by Toho, would you believe?
And the 37th in total. Wow, what a lot of Godzilla films.
Wow-wee.
But
Wowzer.
my first, though. Not Bowser.
Your first?
No, Godzilla.
Yeah.
I know they look similar.
Yeah, Godzilla, yeah. What was the plot, Matt, for your first Godzilla film?
The plot of this film that I watched 15 days ago, but I seem to remember the plot is, end of Second World War, you know, Japanese, you know, they had the kamikaze pilots, they were like suicide pilots, right?
Yeah.
This guy is meant to be one of them. He pretends he's got a fault in his plane so he can land on a small island, which is where they have like plane repairs, so that he could like basically not have to suicide himself. Anyway, he's there. Oh my god, who shows up but Godzilla? You know Godzilla from
Godzilla from Godzilla.
Godzilla. Yeah. He shows up, he wreaks havoc. Kamikaze guy survives. Goes back to Tokyo after the war's ended now, so he survived it. Goes back to Tokyo. Everyone is dead. He has a bit of survivor's guilt. Like his family are dead. There's like it's just like slums. Like there's like one woman, like his next door neighbour's alive. Some random girl with a baby is alive, but the baby's not hers. And he sort of starts a sort of like a family with the girl and the baby. Just basically out of we've all got no one. Let's just look after each other.
Situational family.
Situational family. And then wouldn't you know it, Godzilla comes back.
Oh, don't.
And it just sort of goes on from there.
What did you think to Godzilla Minus One?
I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I loved it.
I'm very interested to hear about your thoughts on this, with it being your first Godzilla. You haven't even seen Godzilla Plus One. You haven't seen Godzilla 1.
No, I haven't seen -2. Haven't watched.
You haven't seen any
Squared.
of them?
I've not watched any of them. The Square Root of Godzilla.
Yeah.
I think what I did love, you're talking about like Godzilla himself, the monster.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let's start with the big man.
So I've never seen the Gareth Edwards one, but from what I'm aware, he's got very little screen time. They very much do like a Jaws type thing. You hear a lot about his reputation, and you see in darkness, you might see like a bit of his body. He's got a few minutes screen time, and that's it.
Big scale. That's what Gareth Edwards does. That's what he does very well in Rogue One. In what was that other film that you really liked that he did?
Oh, The Creator.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my favourite.
Yeah, he does scale very well, and that's kind of one of the big standouts from the 2014 one.
He does. But so that seems to be like, Jaws type thing. So like it's more effective if we just see as little as possible. And like a horror movie type thing. So it's often said, you have a lot of darkness in horror films because it's just such an easy way of getting scares at people because they imagine what's there and that is scarier than what you can actually see. And so it's just easier from a directing point of view because if you show everything clearly, then it's really, really hard to make that feel like a threat and make it effective. Then that's why films like Midsummer by Ari Aster are so effective because it shows that he's a great director because there's no darkness. It's all broad daylight and it's terrifying. And I think this also shows just great direction because every time you see Godzilla 4 times in the movie for quite extended periods. The first time is in darkness, but you can see him full body clearly.
Terrifying.
Every other time,
the first time he shows up. Oh yeah. Boy.
When I first saw him, I thought like, oh, he's smaller than I thought he'd be, but it seemed to me like because it's set a couple of years later when you next see him, he seemed a lot bigger.
Yeah, I think he grows throughout.
Yeah,
he's very small. Yeah,
but yeah, so you see him so clearly throughout the whole thing, and he's such a threat, and he really is like scary, and like you feel such danger from him. And that's just testament to just how well he's directed and how well he's designed. Because like I know that the director was one of the visual effects supervisors.
So this is Takashi Yamazaki was the director.
Yeah, I know he modelled Godzilla. Well, he didn't finish, like he was finished off, but he said like by someone more talented than me. But he like came up with a design, and I thought it was a great design. I loved it. The CGI was great. It's nominated for, I think, shortlisted for best visual effects at the Oscars.
Well deserved.
I thought he always felt like tangible. He felt like, I think he looked like a model almost you could have on your shelf. Like the texture of him, like he felt like a real thing. And his face, I thought, was perfect. How it was like sort of expressionless in that it was like dead behind the eyes, but it looked like a creature and it looked like evil in a way. I think it almost had like the face of sort of like a Chinese dragon type thing, like it sort of big eyes and like a big mouth, but like not really moving, but feeling like a living thing, like an animal. It felt like, I don't know, it was are just so good. The portrayal of Godzilla was so good. What did you think?
It was great. I loved it. So what I loved most about the film was, with the original Godzilla being a way for Japanese filmmakers and artists to get around the enforced propaganda put on them by the Americans after the war.
Oh, okay.
That they weren't allowed to do any art or talk of the nuclear bombs that fell. So Godzilla was a way to express feelings around that and create a character that embodies these feelings.
That's
Godzilla
so
coming in
interesting.
and tearing through. That's why he's got like this nuclear breath, and that's why he's awoken by a bomb going out in the sea.
I mean, I knew that he was a metaphor for like the nuclear bombs, but I didn't know that it was like because they had to do that. Rather than just because they wanted to make a monster movie that was a metaphor of that. That's very interesting.
It's so they couldn't build up like hatred towards America after everything happened. So it's like if you
Which
don't
is very
talk about it,
strange
then you
considering
can't
like one of the next films they did was like Godzilla and Kong, and
I know, I know.
and then they did like an Americanized version of it in that.
And you haven't seen the first Godzilla, but
I haven't seen any of them.
it's great. It's so good.
I tried to watch the first Godzilla. I couldn't find it anywhere.
I know, it's one of those films that's just been buried. It's
Like,
really sad.
I couldn't even like pirate it. I couldn't find it anywhere, which is so strange considering it's so famous.
Yeah. But it's great. You don't see Godzilla a lot. It's a lot about character, and it's a lot about building on that metaphor of how it has affected the Japanese people, and really delving deep into that with the aim of killing Godzilla. Like, that's the arc. But since then, you've kind of lost that. He's now a protector of Japan. He saved Japan from other monsters. He's been taken by America, and American Godzilla is his own thing now, and he's even more commercialized than the Japanese one. So it's nice to see a take on the original Godzilla that still has something to say.
He's not just a big monster who's it's cool seeing him destroy cities. Like there's a reason for him. There's a that is good.
With themes throughout this that I think we'll talk more in spoilers, but I think it was such an interesting spin on the first one, and it like you said, it does it so well. All the human characters are so interesting. They're unique. You're invested in what they're doing.
I think if Godzilla wasn't in the film, if it was just a drama about a kamikaze pilot who survived and him trying to regain his life sort of after the war, it would still be a fantastic film. Yeah, it's great. Which, for these sorts of movies, it's like the Transformers movies. Like, you can't have Transformers in every scene. It's too expensive. Like, you need humans, and often they're like the worst part of the movie, or like, they're you've got an obligation to have them, but they're not necessarily that good. Like, the human side of this was so good, so interesting.
Strong. And I'm sure you've seen that it was supposedly made on a $15 million budget, but this has been disputed and confirmed, and who knows? But you look it up, and it's still 15 million.
But it's definitely not like anywhere near as much as you sort of think it would be from looking at it.
No. To date, it's grossed 94 million worldwide, and is the most successful Japanese Godzilla film of all time. One of the most successful Japanese films in America of all time.
Yeah.
It's well deserved.
I'm very surprised that, the best international feature at the Oscars, countries like submit their own film and they can only submit one. I'm very surprised that Japan didn't put forward either Godzilla -1 or The Boy and the Heron, because either of them would have probably stood a chance of winning.
What did they submit?
Oh God, I can't remember. I'd have to look that up.
Let me have a look.
But it's one that I've never heard of. Now, that might be a better film. I'm sure it's a masterpiece, but it's such like an American bias awards thing that you'd think they'd put forward a film that like American audiences might have seen. It's the same with like France didn't put Anatomy of a Fall. Anatomy of a Fall would have won. Like, I don't know why they didn't pick it. It won the Palme d'Or. People have seen it in like the US and UK. It would have won. Just, I don't know why they didn't submit it.
Japan submitted Perfect Days.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
Never heard of it.
A co-production between Japan and Germany. The film combines 4 short stories. Okay. Great. I haven't seen it.
I normally, if it gets like nominated, like I normally watch the 5 nominations. It's just, I don't know, that just seemed like a very strange choice to me from both Japan and France's part to like not pick the ones which were really big in like America.
Yeah. Oh, the UK submitted
what
Zone of
actually
Interest.
We did, yeah.
I wish I could see it. I wish it was out.
I wish it was out. Yeah, I know.
I would very much like to talk about spoilers.
Let's
Is
do
there
it
anything
then.
else you'd like to talk about?
No, I don't think so. No.
Other than go and see it. If you haven't seen it,
Go
go
and see it. Yeah, I've heard it's so well. It's really good. I've heard Shin Godzilla's very good too. That was like another one. From
I've heard that as well. I haven't seen it,
Yeah,
but I've heard that as well. I think that's more of a monster movie than this kind of.
I think it's still got like a lot of social commentary, but I believe it's about like big corporations and stuff, like big capitalist business.
I think in that one they're able to salvage a single piece of Godzilla, and they then make like a big attraction around it.
Okay.
I can't exactly remember which part of Godzilla they salvage.
Are you doing a silly joke here? Is this just
No.
a bit of shenanigans?
No.
Are you taking me for a fool?
Can you think of which part of Godzilla they salvaged in that film that you just mentioned?
Is it his shin?
It is. I think it is. On to spoilers. What a lovely way of turning the Godzilla story and refocusing it on life and learning to live and surviving and moving on. What a lovely arc that the main character goes through.
And it's so well done that like it really does convince you. Like in the final act, I was like, oh god, he is going to kamikaze himself, and it's like, I'm not sure this is a great thing to be promoting, but at the same time, that also felt like part of his finishing his arc, and it meant that I sort of didn't know how it was going to go.
Yeah, because
I both wanted his arc to end with him regaining the honor, I guess, of finally saving people by kamikaze piloting, and also like, oh, but he needs to be there for his family. And the fact they so successfully do kind of both things. I love films that have characters coming up with a really clever plan and then really satisfyingly watching them execute it.
Yeah.
Like, I love The Great Escape, and like just stuff like that is so, I just love that stuff so much.
And it was a clever, unique way of killing Godzilla in this as well.
It was.
What did they do?
They like, oh god, it's been 2 weeks. They tied some like buoyancy things around him on like big cables that were attached to ships. They like drove around him in a circle and tightened it, and then I can't remember how they did it, but it like pulled him really, really far down below the sea
with like the aims of crushing him through pressure. And then they brought him back, and then that was like plan A if that would kill him, but they kind of thought it wouldn't, and we knew at the audience like, well, if they got a plan B, they're going to get to the plan B, and it yanked him up to the surface to like basically kill him from giving him the bends. Yeah.
And it's, you think like on paper, like, okay, so drowning and giving the bends to Godzilla is like, I don't know if that's a very like cinematic way of killing him, but it was because it was such a real way that you could kill a giant monster like that, and all the characters took it so seriously, and every character had like a different role in the plan. It was just so satisfying to watch.
So great.
And when the original movie theme tune kicked in,
when he's going through the city and god,
I had
what a great
chills
thing.
down my spine. I had a big. It was when they were in the boat, like driving around him in a circle. It's like that original theme play.
Yeah,
like, I had the biggest smile on my face.
So good. And then when he starts to regenerate, and you're like, oh god, here we go.
Because we'd seen earlier in the film the effects of his like atomic breath, like, and it's just so well shot. Like, what I love is when it like blasts everyone away, and then like because of the pressure, like of the
like the vacuum,
like everyone
almost
like gets thrown back again. The other way. So good.
Yeah, the
so
city stuff was great.
Oh my
him
God,
like tearing through, grabbing the train and all that stuff. I'm probably wrong because I haven't seen all of them, but I thought it was a nice way to like fight Godzilla at the end in the sea. Because usually you would kind of think of him going through the city and then loads of tanks firing at him. But having to think of a way to use boats. That's quite a novel scenario. I don't know what the -1 in the title's about though.
I'll tell you.
Oh.
So, well, I might have this wrong. This is like from what I Googled 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But I believe in like Japanese culture, they have like a concept of like, they associate like zero with how Japan was post Second World War, how everything was its lowest point, like economically destroyed, like their cities were destroyed, like people were dead. It was like their lowest point almost. So they have like the concept of like zero associated with that, and so this is like that, and then Godzilla shows up. It's like even worse. That's, from my understanding, that's what it means. When I first heard it, I assumed that would mean it's like a prequel to the original film.
Yeah.
But it's not, because Godzilla dies at the end.
But does he?
But well, that's the thing. They do have like in typical like monster movie genre, like, you know, there's always like you see an egg that hatches or something.
Yeah.
Like you see a bit, I couldn't really tell what it is, but there's like part of him seems to regenerate, possibly. It looked like there was almost like an inflating like sack on him, like it was like
Something
a
was
baby
coming
coming
back.
out. Something was going on, and then the girlfriend wife character has like got some radiation poisoning or something, which is a bit peak because it basically means that all the characters are going to die within a few years. I kind of liked it having a really happy ending.
With it being a Japanese production, and not being Japanese, something that always flags up, especially when you've got like, you think of Squid Game,
Yeah,
as
Korean, you're racist.
an English speaker, and you see all the performances from the Korean actors, you're like, wow, they're great, they're really good.
Yeah.
And then you get English speakers in there being directed by non-English speakers, and they are the worst performances you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Extrapolating that to this, being a non-Japanese speaker and seeing the performances with subtitles, they are so over the top. Although it's all very serious, they are like heightened. Yeah. Like when the main character like falls to his knees and screams, and like that kind of
you always get that
really,
from Asian things. Yeah,
really
it's
expressionate.
It's like watching the comparison between like the Korean old boy and the American old boy. Like at the end when the main character, like it's revealed like what's happened to, like in the Korean one, like he's on his knees, he's begging, he's screaming, he's crying, he got snot going down his nose. And he's like just gone crazy in everywhere, and it's just such a electric performance. It's fantastic. And then you watch like
Josh
Brolin doing it, and
no, please don't do it.
He like squats, but he doesn't even fall to his knees. Like he just is like, and he just stands still, and it's just terrible. I really love how they really go all out with emotions in. Yeah,
that for me, that's the only bit that I was like, I like how Godzilla is very silly. Godzilla is inherently very silly, so it would have been nice if everything was completely straight. Like it's never humorous, but
I don't know
if the performances were a bit more straight for me. In my personal taste.
I don't know. I thought they were pretty serious. The characters got emotional, but the main guy would do. I mean, he was like very like PTSD driven, very just traumatized by the whole thing. I don't know. I thought it was very good. I thought all the performances were great. What I loved about like being a new like a remake sort of, it would sort of set up Godzilla a bit again, and the characters would like hear about him a bit, and they'd be like, "Oh, I don't believe you about this giant bird." Like it would do that big old build up, but no, it was literally like, "Oh, Godzilla's here right away." Yeah. Every character's like, "Oh yeah, this is Godzilla." They're like, "What?" Okay.
Yeah, I think the villagers called him Godzilla. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I love how there was no wasting time on that, because it's the 37th Godzilla film. People are like, yeah, we know who Godzilla is. Let's just get straight to it.
It's like seeing Batman's parents die again. Like, we know. Okay.
I liked in Spider-Man Homecoming where they were like, yeah, you know his origin. Let's just start with the Spider-Man film.
The only version of that kind of retelling that I really liked is probably from Batman vs. Superman. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I've seen that one, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if you remember, Batman's parents get killed, but it's all in slow motion.
Well, that's good, because otherwise I might have missed it.
Yeah, I don't know who directed that one, but it was such a unique and novel way of doing it that I was like, that's great. So maybe if they revealed Godzilla in slow motion in this, it would have worked.
I would have noticed it a bit more.
Just an idea. Yeah, I don't know what else there is to talk about Godzilla -1. Have you got any other thoughts?
So. I just think it's fantastic.
Fantastic.
It's really great. Every part of the film's fantastic. I'd love to see it again. The action's great. It's so great.
Sound design, great.
He's such a presence.
Yep. Score, lovely.
It seems like, if we're comparing it to like Gareth Edwards' one, from my understanding, well, all these like MonsterVerse ones, my understanding is Godzilla feels like such a threat because all of the powers of like the US military can't stop him. Yeah. Whereas in this, he feels like a threat because they have nothing, and he's so powerful, and it's down
to the people, to like the veterans of the war, to try and figure it out, because the government don't give a shit.
The remnants that are left, yeah. And I love that as like two different ways of showing how powerful he is. Either with we've got all our forces and there's nothing, or he's so powerful and we have nothing, and we have to do it anyway.
Yeah. Go and see it. If you haven't seen a Godzilla film, it's a great place to start.
If it's still in the cinema, watch it, but I don't know if it will be.
If it's not playing, go to your local Odeon and ask to see the manager and say that you must see it at the cinema right this second. And if you don't, you shall scream. And then he has to do it. He legally has to do it. It's within his contract.
Yeah.
What did you rate Godzilla -1?
I rated it 4.5 stars.
Ooh, very cheeky. I also rated it 4.5. Well done, Godzilla.
Well done. You delivered a fantastic film there.